So, two massive Epstein stories just dropped at the same time. The New York Times put out this huge expose describing how elite doctors were basically working for Epstein. Apparently, they were treating the woman around him and they were reporting their private medical info back to him, and in some cases, allegedly letting him decide what kind of care they got. And Bill Clinton walked out of his deposition in front of the House Oversight Committee and gave a full statement on the steps, and we've got all the video. There is a lot to unpack here, but let's get into it. So as we were editing this video, explosive footage from the Bill Clinton deposition actually dropped, and we want to walk you guys through exactly what happened and play some clips for you that we find extremely interesting. Look at how Bill Clinton responds to the committee when asked about whether or not he spoke to Prince Andrew regarding Epstein.
The direct answer to your question is no, but I don't want to mislead you. I know that because of my friendship with Evelyn and Lynn Rothschild, and because the former prince was around them, and they knew Ghislaine Maxwell from Britain and through her father, her late father, there may have been some conversation there. I don't remember it, but I don't want to mislead you. I knew something that...
Look at how he responds when the committee asks him if he ever spoke to Epstein about young girls, and also asked him about his visits to the island.
Before we move on, did you ever have any communications with Mr. Epstein that related to young women or girls?
No.
Did you ever visit Epstein's Little St. James Island?
No.
We have Virginia Guffrey, who has testified seeing you on the island with two young girls. Did this occur at all?
Bill then talks about how the release of the files made him feel.
This thing was really hard for me when it came out because we had been friendly with Ghislaine. I was sad, but it was terrible what she did, and she has to be punished. Somebody besides me should make a decision on what it is. So she got 20 years, and there it is.
I think what is one of the most explosive files that were released by the DOJ includes a picture of Bill Clinton in a hot tub. Now, the committee actually confronts Bill Clinton about this infamous picture. Look at what he has to say about it.
Do you recall the details of this photo, or recall the photo being taken?
No, I don't think I ever knew the photo was taken.
Okay, and for those who can't see it, it's a photo of you in a hot tub. There's a person next to you here. Do you remember where it was taken? Where was it taken?
This picture was taken in Brunei. It's a tiny place, but a very wealthy one. And the Sultan of Brunei was a man that I had gotten to know well in my 8 years as president. And he said, I want you to stay at this hotel, and I hope you'll use the pool. So I did.
Were there other people in that pool or hot tub with you as well?
I don't think there's anybody in the hot tub. I didn't forgotten that there was anybody in the hot tub, but it was big, but it was about...
Well,
He's asking in the pool
it appears
area.
this photo, there's a girl over here, or there's someone.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
This is a former United States president sitting in for a deposition in Congress regarding one of the most notorious sex offenders in history. And people want answers. We used to live in a time where the public had an idea that no one was above the law. But unfortunately, the longer this plays out without real legal accountability, the more that perspective on the law is getting skewed.
I'm here today basically for two reasons. First of all, I love my country and the Constitution, and I believe America was built on the idea that no one is above the law, especially presidents, and that we should all live by the same set of rules shaped by the Constitution. Democracy requires every person to play their part, and I hope that by being here today, we can bring ourselves a little further away from the brink and back to being a country where we can disagree civilly and search for the truth and justice. And that outweighs the partisan urge for spectacle and point scoring. I will do my part, and I hope you'll do yours. The second reason I'm here is that the girls and women whose lives Jeffrey Epstein destroyed deserve not just justice, but healing. They've been waiting too long for both. Through my brief acquaintance with Jeffrey Epstein, though it ended years before his crimes came to light, and though I never witnessed during our limited interactions any indication of what was going on, I'm here to offer what little I know so I can do my part to prevent something like this from happening again.
Even if he believes what he says here, it's evident that he knew Epstein. Now, whether he knew him to the point of being aware of his crimes is unclear, but we know that he knew him well enough to fly on his planes. If you are a person that truly believes that we should all live under the same set of rules, and you are aware that this is one of the biggest investigations of modern history, why wouldn't you submit a tip to the FBI? Look, what I'll also say in his defense is that since the pictures of him and Epstein were released by the DOJ, he has been in favor of everything being shown. Clinton talked about how the women whose lives Epstein allegedly ruined have been waiting way too long for both justice and the chance to move forward. He maintained his relationship with Epstein was brief and over long before the crime surfaced, but he said he testified because even the little bit he knows might help make sure this never repeats itself. But then he got personal about Hillary being called in. Here is a video of Bill Clinton, recorded and posted immediately after. Take a look.
I also have to say something personal. Republicans made Hillary testify yesterday, and she had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, nothing. She has no memory of ever even meeting him. She neither traveled with him nor visited any of his properties. So whether 10 people or 10,000 people were subpoenaed, including her, was simply not right.
Then this next soundbite reminds me of something famous he said over 3 decades ago. Roll this clip.
So here's what I told the committee. First, I had no idea of the crimes Epstein was committing. No matter how many photos they show of me, I have 2 things that at the end of the day matter far more than any interpretation of 20-year-old photos. I know what I saw, and more importantly, what I didn't see. And I know what I did, and more importantly, what I didn't do. I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong.
This feels like a perfectly crafted denial that technically answers the question without really answering anything at all. Him saying, I know what I saw and what I didn't see, what I did and what I didn't do, to me, feels somewhat similar to him saying, I smoked but I didn't inhale. We want to know what he did do. Okay, so now let's talk about what's actually in these files. Clinton called for the DOJ to release everything. Well, what the New York Times reports it found in the files that have already been released is deeply disturbing. The Times story says a young woman, reportedly a Russian student, fell off an ATV on Epstein's private island and busted her head open. Any normal person would immediately find the nearest hospital to get this person the right medical care. But the Times piece says Epstein contacted Dr. Eva Dubin, who was apparently his ex-girlfriend and founder of the breast cancer unit at Mount Sinai. And the email appears to say the woman fell off the ATV, needs stitches and an x-ray, and asks her to help organize this. So according to the Times, Epstein and this Russian student fly back to New York. And Dubin gets a Mount Sinai plastic surgeon, Dr. Jess Ting, on standby. And what happens? This woman apparently gets 35 stitches laid out on Epstein's dining room table. This woman is laying on Epstein's dining room table in New York, while this plastic surgeon puts 35 stitches in her head, and she's not at some hospital. Again, this is Epstein's dining room table. Dr. Margaret Moon, a medical ethics expert at Johns Hopkins, told the Times that a wound that serious absolutely needed an ER, and says this seems like, quote, a choice made not in the patient's best interest, but in, it sounds to me, a friend's best interest. And after all this, Dr. Ting reportedly got a $50,000 donation from Epstein for breast cancer research, and then took his girlfriend and her child to visit Epstein's island. Now, Ting has since denied knowing about any illegal activity, but the question remains, why wouldn't a doctor ask for this girl to be delivered to a hospital? There's a reason that Ting was not asking those questions, but it doesn't stop there. The Times reports that Epstein wasn't paying for these women's medical care to be generous, claiming he was using it as leverage. He allegedly decided what treatments they got, which doctors they saw, and whether they got care at all. Case in point, according to the Times, one of Epstein's assistants forwarded him a message from a woman who needed $600 for her acne medication, and Epstein's alleged response was one word: ignore. The Times also found that a Columbia University dentist appeared to ask Epstein how much work he wanted done on a woman who had severe tooth decay. It looks like the dentist in this email is asking Epstein, and not a direct relative, what level of care the patient should receive, which is not his call to make. According to the Times, Epstein was ordering pelvic exams, liposuction, mole removals, and even directing women to specific procedures. And it appears many of the doctors went along with it because Epstein was was hooking them up with donations to their research, cash, and introductions to powerful, powerful people. And remember what Clinton said about Epstein hiding what he was doing.
But even with 20/20 hindsight, I saw nothing that ever gave me real pause. We're only here today because Epstein hid it from everyone so well for so long.
But looking at the extensiveness of the Times report, this claim that he hid it from everyone becomes harder to believe. The Times also found an exchange where one woman apparently wrote directly to Epstein complaining that every doctor he was paying kept him fully updated on her treatments. Epstein apparently wrote back that the doctor should make sure he's happy. That's what the system was apparently all about. Epstein building a network of elite medical professionals who gave him power over other people's bodies. To me, it feels like they bent and broke ethical rules because of money, access, and influence. So where does this all go from here? The committee says they've got Epstein's accountant and lawyer coming in for depositions. They're looking at anyone who maintained a relationship with Epstein after his first conviction. The chairman wouldn't rule out calling Howard Lutnick. Democrats are pushing for Trump to testify as well. And there's still the question of what's not in the files. House Democrats say potentially millions of documents remain unreleased. We'll keep following this. Obviously, there's a lot more to come. Let us know if there is anything in the files you'd like us to cover. I'm Jakson, and I'll see you in the next one.